This is the 16.3 day one guided practice. Going to be doing the odds, and this is all about the inverse of sine, cosine, and tangent. So for these first ones, all you would need to do is, if you want to get rid of the sign on each side, or like whatever the classification is, or the sine, cosine, whatever, you just do the inverse of it. So I'm going to do the inverse of sine to both sides. So it'd be sine, in my calculator I have to do sine, shift sine. So it'd be shift sine -1, and then I'll just type in 0.4848, and then close parentheses, and I would get 28.9999990. So that would be 28, and we're doing to the nearest tenth. So I would actually round this up. This is 28.99. This would get rounded up to 29. Same thing. I'm going to do shift for number 3. Shift cosine, and then 0.7431. That's going to equal 42. And that's 0.00. So it's just going to be 42 even. Then I'm going to do the inverse of cosine to 0.5878. Get 53.99. And then I'm going to round that up from the 10th to the 10th spot, so that'd be 54 degrees. And then finally, cosine A, so the inverse of cosine, 0.4226 is equal to 65.00, so that would be just 65 degrees. So circle my answers for all these. And that's the first part. The second part, remember, we set these up regularly. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to identify this is the hypotenuse. If I start at this angle, this is going to be my opposite, this is going to be my adjacent. So what I'm given is I'm given the opposite and the adjacent. So if I have SOHCAHTOA, I have the opposite and the adjacent. Oh, sorry, I did something wrong here. No, I didn't. Opposite and adjacent, so I can do tangent. So I would do tangent, and we'll call this x. So tangent x over 1 is going to equal 27 over 38. Now, if you wanted to cross multiply, that'd be fine, but one thing you can do, so I've been teaching you cross multiply, so it's just cross multiply. So tan, even if you do that, it's going to be tan x times 38 is equal to 27. And then I need to get rid of the 38, so I'm going to divide both sides by 38. And I'm back to this. So that's the reason why I was saying what you can just do is, I know that eventually I know that I'm going to have to get rid of the tan, right? So in order to do that, you just have to do the opposite. The opposite of tan is the inverse of tan to the -1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do tan to the -1 on both sides. And that crosses that out. So then what I type in my calculator is I'll just do tan -1 and then the parentheses 27 divided by 38. So when I do that, I get tan -1, 27 divided by 38 is equal to 35.39. So to the nearest tenth, that'd be 35.4. And that's degrees. All right, moving on to 11. Set it up regularly. I know this is my hypotenuse. This is going to be, if I start here, that's going to be opposite adjacent. So I can use tan again because I'm using I have the opposite and the adjacent right there. So I'm going to set it up as tan x is equal to 14 over 29. So again, if I want to get rid of the tangent or whatever modifiers on the side, I got to do the opposite. So I'm going to do tan -1 to both sides. So then I'm going to get x is equal to tan -1, and then the parentheses 14 divided by 29. So I just typed that right into my calculator. Tangent -1, and then 14 divided by 29. I get 25.76, so round that from the tenths is 25.8. So your angle x is going to be 25.8 degrees. 13. I know this is my hypotenuse. If this is my angle, this is the opposite, this is the adjacent. So what's given to me is the opposite and the hypotenuse. Katoa, I'm giving the opposite and the hypotenuse, so it's going to be sine. So sine x, because we don't know what this angle is, so we're just calling it x, is going to be equal to opposite over hypotenuse, so that'd be 10 over 39. I want to get rid of the sine on the left side, so I just want to leave x alone. I want to get x alone, so I'm going to do sine -1 to both sides. So then I'll be left with x is equal to sine -1, 10 divided by 39. So sine -1, parentheses, 10 divided by 39, 14.85, so 14.9. All right, then 15. This is my hypotenuse. This is what my angle starts, so I know this is opposite, and this is adjacent. So I am given the hypotenuse, and I'm given the opposite. So I can do, again, sine. So I would do sine x, because we don't know what that angle is, so we're just calling it x, is equal to 12 over 24. I want to get rid of the sine, so I do an inverse sine to both sides. And that crosses this sign out. So I would have x is equal to sine -1, and then 12 divided by 24. So sine -1, 12 divided by 24 gives me 30 even. So 30 degrees even. 17. We have hypotenuse. If I start at this angle, I know this is the opposite and this is the adjacent. So it gives me the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So katoa gives me the opposite, gives me the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So I can use cosine. So cosine x is going to be equal to, and then cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so that would be 6 over 8. I want to do cosine, the inverse of cosine to both sides to get x by itself. So x is equal to cosine -1, parentheses, 6 divided by 8. So when I just plug that into my calculator, 41.4. So x is equals 41.4 degrees. And that's it. Keep moving. Here's my 90-degree angle. The opposite would be right here, so that's my hypotenuse. This is the angle that we're looking for, so this is our opposite, so that means this is the adjacent. I am given actually all three, so I can probably just pick one, right? So let's just do opposite over adjacent. So opposite over adjacent is tan. So what I'm going to do is tan x is equal to, and I'm doing opposite over adjacent, so I need 14 and 48. So 14 divided by 48. I want to get x by itself, so I'm going to do tan -1 to both sides. So that'll cross out that. So x is equal to tangent -1, 14 divided by 48. Just type that just as it is into my calculator, 14 divided by 48. Close the parentheses, enter, I get 16.3. I actually get 16.26, but I'm rounding, so that would be 16.3 degrees. Same thing over here. I know this is my hypotenuse. I know that if I'm starting at this angle right here, this is the opposite, which would make this the adjacent. So I'm given all three angles. So I'll do opposite and hypotenuse. So opposite and hypotenuse is sine. So I'm going to do sine x is equal to 24 over 25. So then from there, I want to get rid of the sine. So I do the inverse of sine to both sides. And so sine -1, so I'm sorry, x is equal to sine -1, 24 divided by 25. In my calculator, I do 24 divided by 25, and I get 73.3. So that'd be 73.3 degrees. Now let's just for a second, let's do a different one. So we did sine, let's do TOA. So that'd be tangent, so that'd be opposite over adjacent. So let's do tangent x is equal to the opposite, which is 24, over the adjacent, which is 7. I want to get rid of or I want to get x alone, so I'm going to do the inverse of tangent. So that'd be tangent -1 or the inverse of tangent. And then I'm going to do 24 divided by 7 equals 73. Get the same thing. Okay? That's 73.73, but regardless, it's the same thing. Okay? All right, 23. Here's my hypotenuse. And then I have my angle there, so this is opposite, and this is the adjacent. So I'm going to use tan, just because I have opposite here and adjacent here. So that'd be tan x is equal to 51 over 68. And I want to get rid of the tan, so I would do the inverse of it. So x is equal to tan -1, 51 divided by 68. And when I do that, I get 36.9 as my final answer. Now let's just check this answer. Let's do the same thing, but let's just use cosine. So I'm going to need cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So I'm just checking this answer, doing it a different way. So cosine x is going to be equal to, that's adjacent over hypotenuse, so it'd be 68 over 85. So I'll do the inverse of cosine, and then do 68 divided by 85. I get 36.86, so that'd be 36.9. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily matter. If you have all three, it doesn't matter which one you do. You just got to pick one, and you can check your answers with the others. All right, 25. Find the measure of each side length round to the nearest tenth if needed. So this is my hypotenuse. Here's my angle, right? And so that means this is the opposite, and this is the adjacent, right? So I'm given like 47, right? So I'm given 47, and that's going to be equal to, and I'm looking for what this is. So I have the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So in SOHCAHTOA, I have the adjacent and the hypotenuse and cosine. So I'm going to do cosine 47 is equal to the opposite, I'm sorry, not the opposite, the adjacent, which is x, over my hypotenuse, which is 3. This is over 1, so let's just cross multiply here. X is equal to cosine 47 times 3. So in my calculator, I'm going to do cosine 47, close parentheses, times 3, and I get 2.04599. So I'm near the nearest tenth, so it would just be 2. X is equal to 2. And that's just finding this length right here. So again, on this one, I just found out that after labeling everything, I was given this 47, so that's where this comes in. And then I knew that I had the hypotenuse, and I'm looking for the adjacent. So I have adjacent and hypotenuse and cosine. So that's how I got cosine 47 is equal to, and then I did the adjacent, which is x over 3, which is the hypotenuse, cross multiplied, and I got x is equal to 2. All right, that's all I have. So, as always, advocate for yourself. Email us, Math Lab, or you can always stop by after school. Hope you guys have a great night. Thanks a lot.